It's one of the worst kinds of pain when your child won't talk to you. When you have a teenager, they're going through so many different things, they're trying to figure out life. And sometimes there is such a disconnect with parents. And even in our culture, we normalize that we say, oh, it's the teenage years, it's to be expected. But to consider if you're one of those parents that is happening to, just considering what that feels like to have this child who you've raised and who was your baby, who you treasured and held and cared for all these years, to look at you with such hatred, or to even say sometimes that they hate you, that they want nothing to do with you, that they wish they weren't your child, or something painful like that. It's so damaging. It's so heartbreaking to experience it. I know for myself, I have three children. My oldest is going to be 20, my second born is going to be 17, and my little one is going to be 12, almost 12. And so, almost have three teenagers in the house kind of thing. And it has been such an intense experience going from childhood where they're sitting on your lap and just cuddling and snuggling and being good with the I love you talk and the deep connection talk, to becoming adults and wanting their independence and autonomy and not wanting to connect, and sometimes arguing and feeling so very disconnected from the children that felt so near and close to my heart. My name is Monica Maurer. I am a licensed professional counselor. I'm also the founder and president of the Center for Transformation. Our center exists to help people like you create connection in this lonely and disconnected world. And who better to connect to than our very own family? This is our blood. These are the people that we have, sweat and we would die for. We are blood, sweat, and tears kind of thing, right? That we've given it all. We've laid it all down for our children, and then to feel like so disconnected, so very disconnected, so going in different directions, it can be one of the most heartbreaking experiences of our lives. I oftentimes say that I've worked with teenagers since I was a teenager. I graduated from college and went straight into being a teacher, a high school teacher. I taught, 10th and 11th and 12th grade, my first year of teaching, and then I got married and we moved to California. I taught 6th grade at a private school out there for a year, and then I taught 9th grade for a couple of years before going back to school and becoming a therapist, because I was like, wow, these kids, these teenagers in the school system, they're just so hurting. And I had a lot of kids coming to me and expressing their pain, their trauma, the abuse from their homes, and the difficulties in their lives. And I just wanted to be able to help. And so that's why I became a therapist, because I wanted to be able to help teens. And so I've been working with teens for quite some time. I still specialize with, and I always say I will always specialize in working with teens, although I do work with a lot of married couples and significant traumatized experiences as well. But working with teens has always been a heartbeat of mine, and I feel like that because I think working with teens is an opportunity to stop something before it starts. It's preventative work is how I articulate that. It's a sense of being able to help someone before they know they need to be helped. And I think as teens, there's this kind of circular thinking around life. There's a sense of, okay, I had a bad day, but that doesn't mean anything about me or my life. I'm just, tomorrow will be a better day. And by the time we get to mid-age, we're thinking more like, okay, this is a real problem that I need to solve. But the problem with getting to mid-age before you figure that out is you've already oftentimes made a lot of decisions in terms of career and who to marry. You may have a kid or two by that time. And so your life and your inability to regulate yourself and figure yourself out is now impacting others exponentially. So my thought has always been, hey, if we can help teens now figure themselves out, things will be better. So that's my perspective on working with teens all these years. And, having teens myself now in my home has been an eye-opening experience as well, because, I can work with other people's teens all day long, but then to have my own heartbeat walking around in the universe, my own flesh and blood, the ones I love the most, growing and becoming adults has been an eye-opening and emotionally difficult experience. So it was, I think, sometime in this past year when I had this just awakening. It was kind of like COVID had happened, and we were all kind of in our homes, and our kids were close to us. We were doing a lot together and just being with one another. And then after COVID, it was like, whoa, now they're adults, they're on with their lives, and there's more of a disconnect, and they're going away from me instead of toward me like I'd always felt. And I went through a time of grieving that experience, grieving it because I missed the little ones, right? My older two are boys, and I was like, I miss my boys. Where are my boys? They're gone. They're off and running, and I want that for them. I want them to grow and be healthy, and go out into life and figure things out and succeed and fail and learn and grow and all those things. And I was missing the little ones, because I wasn't ready to give them up. It was almost like they're two different people. However, I know they're not, but it was like I need to grieve the loss of being a mom of boys and start to really adjust to getting to know these men. So I say all of that as I discuss this idea of what happens when your teen isn't talking to you. How does that affect you, and what are you going to do about it? So I know it affects us in devastating ways when there is conflict with the people we love. And sometimes I think as parents, we go into a place of almost not wanting it to be that way, or blaming them and saying, well, it's their fault. So, I'm just, going to blame them. And then we're isolating, we're at like a gridlock, and we're just not talking. And I'm angry at them and they're angry at me. And we're thinking things like, well, they're going to move out in a few years, so it doesn't really matter. There's nothing I can do, or maybe I should send them away, in most extreme situations. But in a lot of situations, what we're looking at is just a need to get to know our child at a next level and kind of dig in. And so I'm thinking of a few things that we really need to remember in these situations where there is conflict with our teenage son and daughter. And one of those things is just to remember this person, although they are adulting and looking different than they ever have before, and talking and acting different than they ever have before, they still are this little child that who we raised. This is still the one we love. This is still the one we nurtured and raised as a child, and who trusted us and who we trusted them and we felt connected to. So just remembering that although the body is changing, our child is still the same person, really keeping that in mind and keeping in your heart that deep, sacrificial, connected love that you have had for them, even though they may be acting unlike they ever have before. That does not mean that they are a different person. So it's a very important concept and hard to do. It's hard to do when someone is acting in an ugly way to you. The tendency is to view them through the lens of their behavior rather than to view them through the lens of who you know them to be. Going back to those ways that they were, the ways that they acted, and the ways that the aspects of their character that really you knew that you knew that you knew when they were younger. Going back to those things, maybe even writing out a list that says, hey, this is who I know my child to be. They are wise, they are kind, they are this, even if they're acting directly opposite of that. And a lot of times for teens, it's important to remind them that you know their true identity is this and this and this and this, and not the way that they're acting in these situations. There's a lot of pressure for the teens growing up in this environment in our world today. I mean, it was hard enough. I grew up in the 80s, in the 90s, and it was hard too. I think it's always been difficult to be a teen and to grow up kind of in that middle space, not knowing who you are. Your body's gotten bigger, but you still feel insecure and not sure how you fit, etc., etc. But there is something so intense about what's going on in the culture today. So much being thrown at the kids. Even with what we all went through with COVID, being locked in, they were locked in when they should have been out and about doing things. And it was very damaging, I think, to them psychologically. And then thinking about the internet and kind of where things are with that, and how many of them are being exposed to things that are just beyond what we would have ever been exposed to before the internet age. And their brains just aren't ready for it. So they need our understanding. They need our help. I heard Simon Sinek, he's a motivational speaker. He said some really amazing things. He was talking about millennials actually, but I know I'm kind of specifically referring to Gen Z right now, but just how glued they are to their phones and how it's really impacting their relational skills. So very difficult for them, and they don't even know what they're doing wrong. They need our help. They need our understanding. They need our compassion, and they need our guidance, even if they don't think we do. And we need to be wise about how we're pulling them into that. So first of all, kind of remembering that this is your child. This is the child who was born to you or who you adopted at a very young age, and they need to be seen through the lens of their truest self. And then secondarily, it's natural and healthy for teens at about 13 years of age for their brains to really shift and go toward finding their identity with their peers rather than their parents and their family. When they're kids, it's all about mom and dad and how I fit into this family unit, how we belong together. And then as they become teens, they really need to be connecting with people outside the home to figure out who they are, to be able to gain the courage, the strength, to understand their identity in a social setting so that they can go out into the world and kind of conquer and succeed. And we want to be their home base, their warm nest, but they need to be able to go out and do that. And so sometimes that pulling away is happening where they're not talking, or they want to autonomize, they want to figure themselves out, and we need to allow some space for them to grow and do that. Now we need to correct them when they're being disrespectful and when there's an altercation that is inappropriate and unhealthy for them, just like we would correct them if they talk to another person that way. But when we think about what they're trying to do and just being different from us, thinking different, exploring the world, we don't want to hinder that process. We want to allow them to grow and explore and become different and have different thoughts and sit with them in those thoughts. And my belief, and this is a third thing I'll talk about today in this episode, my belief is that if we do this the right way, if we value them because of who they are, if we speak to them about their true identity, if we don't overreact in situations, which I know I'm guilty of a lot, but if we don't overreact in situations, and we actually love our children well and speak the truth in love and pull them into true identity, true reality, that they will come back to us. We are the ones who are leading this as the parents. It is not their responsibility to lead us into a relationship. We lead them. And I'm honest with my kids. I'll say, hey, when that happened, it really hurt my feelings. I love you. And when you said this and this and this, it really hurt my feelings. And people are more important than problems. You're the most important, I'll tell them that all the time. You're the most important asset I have. You are the most important thing to me, and I want to do right by you more than anything in the world. I want to honor your life and help you to launch into healthy adulthood. And I want to have real conversations. I want to have a real relationship with you and not settling for anything less than that. You know, sometimes it takes a long time to sit with your student, your teenager, and love them, and push to get the real information. They want to talk, but a lot of times they won't unless you sit with them for quite some time and really pull out information from them that they need to unburden. They're experiencing a lot, they're seeing a lot, and they need our help as parents. We want to be there for them. And I just want to encourage you, if you're listening to this and you're desperate and you're needing help with how to talk with your teenager, how to reconcile the relationship, and you just don't know how, keep listening to these episodes. I'm going to be talking more about teens and more about parent-teen interactions. But also you might consider getting a therapist who specializes with teens, who can sit with you and your teen. And I really advise asking the therapist, are you willing to work with me and my teen, myself and my teen together? Because some therapists just work with the teen, they don't really involve the parents. But it's my express advice and my greatest passion that parents and teens need to be working together in therapy, so parents know how to communicate to the teen, and the teen is able to talk to the parents about the things that are going on, and the therapist can kind of work together with that team in order to bring the unity that needs to be had, that the therapist can confront the parent about the things that the parent isn't doing right, and the therapist can ease into the conversation with the teen to get the trust, and then allow the teen to open their heart to allowing the parent in when the parent's safe for that. So I look forward to talking more about these things in the next episodes. Have a good one.